right, I am Marcus Sheridan, and I'm here with Nancy Genys of Gatewings. It's a special website, and it's very unique, as is Nancy's story, and that's what has attracted me to sit down with you today and talk. And I was reading on your About page of your website, where it talks about some of the things that you've gone through, which is stuff that can really break a person. If you wouldn't mind delving into it a little bit, there was a 3-year period of your life that was bad.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how else to put that.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about what happened.
Well, saying it was bad is kind of a nice word
Right.
about it. It was actually hell for me.
Right.
It was the darkest time of my life, and it began with the death of our oldest son. He was 23 and a half years old. He was accidentally electrocuted. Most people are always like, how did he die? How did he die? And it was followed by, a month later, my father dying.
Yeah.
When my father died, I lost my inheritance because of the way the family situation ended up being. And it was substantial, or should have been. Then I lost, within 2.5 years after that, I lost our youngest daughter. So our oldest son died, my father, then my youngest daughter. Then about 3 months later, I lost my studio. I thought I had sold it to my most trusted employee, who didn't pay for it after I put it in her name. And then that kind of escalated into us losing most of our worldly possessions. So we lost our cabin and our land and vehicles and all of the things that we didn't have the income for anymore. And so it was just a massive, overwhelming time for me.
You know, I mean, you say this story, and it's like, I try to think of anything that's comparable to it. It's like almost Job-like of the Bible. I'm sure you've heard that analogy many times. I'm sure you've probably read it more than once. How does somebody, the people that are watching this right now, might have experienced something like that, a small snippet of that. You know, you somehow have managed to turn this into a positive, despite your grief and your pain. How do you do that? I mean, what happened to you to say, you know what, I'm not going to sit here and just, crawl in my bed and never get up again, but I'm going to fight. How did you do that?
Well, I have to just first of all tell you that there are times that I did feel like giving up.
Right.
And that during the darkest of times, because pain, when really, really hard things happen, it can be so overwhelming you don't know how to cope. And I realized a few things, because I'm not sure if it's because I was open to learning, and that's why I was able to mourn productively, and that's one of the bases of our topics of like how we teach people. But I realized that difficult things can either make you or break you. And I started looking around me, and I started comparing, and I know this sounds kind of bizarre, but I looked at my grandmother, who had lost 13 children, and I thought, how did she do it? I thought, if she did this, I've only lost 2. I started to try and put myself in looking at what I had left. I still had some children that were alive. I hadn't lost them all. My grandmother lost them all. She only had one living child out of all of them. Her oldest one was my grandfather, and then she lived to see him be murdered when my mother was 9. So she lost every one of her children. And so I started looking at these things, and I realized that it was completely within my power how to look at these things. That I could either choose to look at the blessings and the things that I had left, or I could crawl in the closet, which I had done, get into fetal position and ask God to let me die. I had done both. And so I then started looking around at other people who had lost things, and I realized that there were people who had never been the same. They were bitter, broken, defeated, depressed, disillusioned, cynical people, that these difficult times had literally broken them. And so I chose to seek guidance from my higher power and ask, and I literally asked, what was I supposed to get from this? And I learned a lot of huge lessons. And that's what we share in our seminar and our workshop is I learned a lot of important things, one of which is that it's not always about me. I get to suffer the pain and the heartache and the sadness because I loved them, but really it wasn't about me, their deaths. It wasn't about me.
How are you not angry?
How am I not angry? Because I chose not to. That would be, there were times when I was really depressed, and there were times I was angry, to be honest with you, because that's part of the mourning process. And so there were times when I was angry at God, particularly with the second child. The first one, I didn't have the anger as much, but the second one, I was so mad. But another part of the thing that we do is we teach people how to process that so you can write through those feelings. And I just really, I realized that I have this life right now to live. And I can go around being angry and bitter and defeated, or I can embrace today and be grateful for the blessings that I have. And gratitude is a massively huge healer. And so when I can look and see all the things that I do have, when I lost the studio, I lost hundreds of people that I thought were my friends. And so, with Job, and I did read the story of Job, he lost all of his children, all of his friends. I didn't lose all of my children, I didn't lose all of my friends. I ended up finding the people who really were my friends. I saw the blessings that I did have left. And so I just started changing the way I looked at things.
When I look at your situation, I think what rings true to me more than anything is that you have a perspective that is so utterly unique, and that it seems like anybody that would come to a workshop or a seminar or email you directly, that you have felt probably what they have felt. You can almost relate to anybody because of this, just these hardships that you've gone through. Do you feel that way? I mean, have you had many conversations where you were able to walk away, or where that conversation really helped that person? Whether it be a conversation, an article that you wrote on Gatewings, a class that you taught.
Well, I have to tell you that one of the reasons that I started Gatewings with Steve was because there must have been dozens and dozens of people who, as I was going through these things, watched what I was doing, and they said, "Oh my goodness, Nancy, you have to write a book. You are the strongest person I've ever met." Well, I didn't feel like it at the time, because when you're going through things, it's pretty tough. But I do know that it changes lives, and I do know that I don't think there's anything that anybody could tell me that would throw me for a loop that I haven't either experienced, felt, or thought. As far as like even having a rebellious child, or adopting a child and having that child taken away, that happened to us as well. Just the things that I've gone through in my life are huge. And so, I could be mad. I could compare myself with my best friend, Eileen, and she wouldn't care if I said this because I've told her that before, but her life has been so awesome for her, right. and I could be really bitter and grumpy, but we have a different purpose. We have a different path. Yes. We have a different set of circumstances, and that's how it is for all of us. My life is not yours. My path is not yours. And so where I feel like I am blessed right now is the fact that I can relate. There is not, I swear to you, there's nothing someone can tell me that would make me like be freaked or like not understand. Because I probably felt most of the things they felt.
I believe that. Just talking to you, reading your story, getting to know you, I've felt that as well. It's an amazing story. Amazing story. Thank you,
Thanks.
Nancy. Thank you very much.